Hello everyone, my name is Anitsu and I'm back with another Digimon Spoilers video. So today we got a whole bunch of new spoilers and they all are looking really interesting and they're all doing some really powerful things. So starting off with the newest card that we got spoiled, it is going to be Zeke Greymon. So this, for those who don't know, came from the Cross War series, and it is definitely looking to be a pretty decent Digimon because he has not only an innate ability, but an inheritable one on a level 6, which we haven't really seen a whole bunch of level 6s with inheritable abilities outside of the Ragnarlordmon line stuff before, so this looks like we're definitely going to be getting some more. What Zeke Greymon is doing stat-wise isn't anything too special, he's just your average level 6, but what is interesting is he has a when Digivolved ability of Shingeki. So Shingeki is basically the ability where when your memory is moved over onto the opponent's side, then this Digimon can still attack. So this is really powerful because you could basically just Digivolve up into him, and then even if the memory is on the opponent's side, you still are able to attack. So you still can use the Mega in some capacity when you Digivolve them, and then the turn just doesn't immediately pass over to the opponent. So this is a really good ability to have, and a Mega just having that is, again, pretty solid, even though stat-wise he's not doing anything too crazy, but that just means you could build a really crazy stack with him, so that way you could utilize this ability a little bit more. And then he does give an inheritable ability, and his inheritable ability is during your turn. When you perform Shingeki, then you get to choose an opponent's active Digimon and attack it. We've seen this ability a little bit before, but most of the time this ability's always been on green Digimon. We know that red Digimon have a lot of DP boosts, and we know red also has played with piercing a little bit as well. I definitely think when you use this card as an inheritable, it is definitely going to be a very powerful one. But it is only when you use it Shingeki, which I don't know exactly if a whole bunch of level 7s are going to start getting Shingeki, or is there a way to give them Shingeki, but regardless, it's still just a very powerful ability for you to be thinking about, and then you could also use this with some other level 6s if they are planning on doing some like form changes, or if you're able to put this card into another card as an inheritable, then that's just another thing to think about. So it's just a really interesting ability overall, and I definitely think it's going to have some decent play. Next, we have Shoutmon DX. So Shoutmon DX is another card from Cross Wars, so that's always just interesting to think about, considering Cross Wars is like one of the dark horses of Digimon. Not a lot of people really like that season. But regardless, show quality aside, Shoutmon DX is definitely looking to be a really interesting Digimon. So the first big thing to note about the card is he can Digivolve on top of a level 6 4-2. So this kind of combos with Zeke Greymon, so it allows you to use Zeke Greymon's inheritable skill with Shoutmon DX, which is obviously the whole point. But you could also use this with another level 6, which is really interesting to think about, considering we have, again, from the Ragnarlordmon line stuff, we got Durandamon, and Durandamon could give Shoutmon DX Piercing. So that's just, again, some more synergy and more interesting things to think about, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to be seeing like the War Greymon with an inheritable source, considering just as a little sneak peek, we have a Metal Garurumon with an inheritable. So he will have a whole bunch of potential targets that he could use his ability to Digivolve off of a level 6 with, but he also, like a whole bunch of other level 6s, can Digivolve off of a level 5, and his Digivolving off of a level 5 costs 4, where his Digivolving off of a level 6 only costs him 2. So that's just one really big thing to think about, and then his DP is only 12,000, so that's just like your normal high-end Mega. And then on top of all that, he does have the when Digivolving ability of Shingeki. So again, this is just meant to be played with Zeke Greymon. So that way, when you use Shingeki on Shoutmon DX, then he will be able to attack into an opponent's active Digimon. So there's that whole intended line of play there, and then on top of which he even has his own when Digivolving ability, where you may put a red Digimon card from your hand on top of this card's Digivolution source, And then for each Omega Shoutmon or Zeke Greymon in this card's Digivolution source, you could delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 5,000 DP or less. So not only is he able to just Digivolve off of level 6s, but he also can add level 6s into his evolution source. So like I mentioned before with Durandamon, you could Digivolve all the way up into Durandamon, then Digivolve Durandamon into Shoutmon DX, and then have Shoutmon DX's ability put Zeke Greymon so that way you have a Piercer that can attack into the opponent's active Digimon. So that's just one way you could play the card. Obviously, we don't exactly know everything else that's going to be in the set, so there could be even more synergy. We still don't even know what Omega Shoutmon is going to be doing, so that's just another thing to think about on how the card could be utilized. So this card just has a whole bunch of power and a whole bunch of potential just based on him being able to Digivolve off of a level 6. And then the removal part isn't necessarily that bad, considering if you Digivolve off of a Omega Shoutmon or Digivolve off of a Zeke and add another Omega or another Zeke, then the removal could potentially hit 2 targets, otherwise it's mostly going to hit 1, and that's just pretty decent to think about, just because he just has a little bit of built-in removal, and removal is always good. Next up, we got Sakuyamon. So Sakuyamon is definitely a really interesting mega, not only just because she is a very powerful and very unique mega, but also because the fact that a lot of people have been waiting for the Renamon line to finally make it into the game. And, you know, Sakuyamon being her mega definitely means that she has a very, very high chance that the rest of her line is going to make it into the game. And that's just really exciting for all those people who really like Renamon. But Sakuyamon is definitely a really, really interesting mega. So stat-wise, again, she's nothing too special. She's like your average mega. And then she has 2 really powerful abilities. So her first ability is a really, really powerful ability where during the opponent's turn, when your opponent's Digimon is moved from the raising area to the battle area, that Digimon gets security attack -3. So this is really, really huge because it means that you just don't die to Digimon in the raising area anymore. So even though the Digimon from the raising area can attack, and most of the time it leads to lethal positions because, again, like if they're trying to chip away at your security and then you just aren't able to heal or block, then the raising Digimon will just come in and basically auto-win the game. So Sakuyamon preventing those types of situations from happening definitely is a really interesting and really powerful one. And then on top of that, she even has her own ability during your turn. All of the opponent's security Digimon get -3,000 DP. So this is the first time we've seen yellow affecting the opponent's security Digimon, and -3,000 DP on the opponent's security Digimon is actually really, really huge because yellow not really having a whole lot of power to them means that they don't have really good chances of living through certain security checks, and Sakuyamon basically helping all of your yellow Digimon live through security checks is just absolutely phenomenal. So like Sakuyamon, you don't really feel that bad swinging into the opponent's security just because the opponent's security Digimon will be debuffed. Where normally yellow has been playing with buffing its own security Digimon in the past, this is playing with debuffing the opponent's, and that's just, again, really, really powerful, especially since we don't know what other stuff the Renamon line is going to hold for us to make Sakuyamon even more powerful than what she currently is. So I'm definitely really, really liking what Sakuyamon is doing, and I think that she's a really, really powerful card. Next up, we have a new version of Argemon. So this version of Argemon has Digisorption 2. So when you use Digisorption 2, that means he's going to cost only 2 to evolve, which again is still pretty decent. He is a little bit weaker than the other Argemon in terms of like general stats, but that's okay because he has a really good when Digivolving ability to suspend all of the opponent's Tamers. So a lot of people have been asking for ways to have Digimon or cards interact with the opponent's Tamers, because right now those are the only cards that didn't have an interactive element to them. So this card definitely adds that interactive element to them, and having all of the opponent's Tamer suspended means that they can't use their various abilities most of the time. So that's just really, really powerful to think about. And then he even has another really powerful ability where during both players' turns, all of the opponent's Tamer cards can't unsuspend. So not only does he rest the opponent's Tamers down, but he also makes it so that they can't unsuspend as long as this card's on the field. So that's just really, really powerful to think about because, like, stun locking cards is just very, very good, and then like limiting what the Tamers are able to do just because they're rested is again very, very powerful. So between variants and matchups, I don't think this like kills Tamer based decks at all, but it does add some interactive element to Tamer based decks. So if you want to run this card, then you're more than welcome to. Outside of that, next up, we have Metal Garurumon. So this is a new Metal Garurumon, and he's definitely looking to be a really interesting Mega. So stat-wise, he's not doing anything too special, but he does have a really interesting when Digivolved ability, where if this Digimon has a Digimon with Garurumon in its name in its evolution source, then you get to return one of the opponent's Digimon with an on-deletion ability to the bottom of their deck and then trash all of their Digivolution cards. So this is a really hyper-specific ability, so not only does the opponent need to have a Digimon with an on-deletion ability to even think about using this ability, but you also need to have a Garurumon in its evolution source to even use this ability. So it's a very, very specific ability, but it's a very, very powerful ability. The only big thing is like there's not exactly a whole lot of like really good high level Digimon that have on deletion abilities. Granted, depending on how the opponent digivolves up, they could have one in their inheritable that they are going to be thinking about triggering. So there's always that. But like I think the removal is really, really powerful. It's just really, really specific. And I don't know if that's going to hold the card back or not. But what is really interesting about the card is the fact that he does have an inheritable ability as a level 6. So his inheritable ability is a when attacking ability once per turn, you get to gain 1 memory. So it's just a very generic ability, but that's fine because that's all it really needs to be. It's just a little extra something for Omnimon. It's mostly going to be for Omnimon because we don't really have any other blue level 7s. But regardless of who it's for, it's still a very, very decent ability just being able to gain 1 memory because, just being able to gain a memory can do a lot depending on what you're playing and how you're playing it. And then the last card that we got today is going to be Omnimon Zwart. So Omnimon Zwart is definitely looking to be a very, very powerful level 7. He digivolves off of black and purple, so that's just one thing to note that black and purple get access to another one on top of Millenniumon. Black already has a whole bunch of level 7s, but purple doesn't, so that's just really good for purple. And then he just has your stereotypical Omnimon stats, so he's really doing nothing special there. But what is really interesting is his abilities. So he has a when Digivolved ability where you get to mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you may play up to 2 black or purple Digimon that have a cost of 8 or less from your trash for free. So being able to res basically a level 5 or below is still a really, really good ability to have just because, again, purple really likes resing cards because it allows you to just have a whole bunch of pressure on board, especially resing multiple cards off of Digivolving. So that's just some really, really powerful thing to think about. Even though purple most of the time is just resing its lower levels, being able to res your higher levels definitely still could matter because there's still a whole bunch of Digimon that cost 8 or less in those 2 colors that just want to be played. And then you do get their on-play effects, so that is just one thing to note if they have any on-play effects. So you could res something like a Chimeramon in something else to basically get Chimeramon's effect off. Like, there's just a whole bunch of things you could do with this card and how you could set it up to make it be a very, very powerful when Digivolved ability. And then his when attacking ability is you can return 1 level 6 Digimon from its Digivolution source to your hand, and then delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon that has a play cost of 12 or less. So this is basically just like Trump Sword on attack, except it's not like specifically any Digimon that is unsuspended. It is just any Digimon that's unsuspended that costs 12 or less. So this doesn't necessarily hard counter other Omnimons or other like higher level Digimon, but it does have the ability to basically clear most level 6s in the game outside of a small handful, and then this just does not even touch level 7s at all. But the fact that it's still a removal ability is still really, really huge, just because, Omnimon's always traditionally had a removal ability on all of his other incarnations in some way, shape, or form. So it's no surprise that he has one here, and it is definitely a really good ability to have because you can catch the opponent having one of their higher level Digimon in an unsuspended state, and then this card you could just Digivolve up into to clean them up. But it being on attack is a little bit telegraphed because most of the time you're not going to be able to just Digivolve up into Zwart and then attack right away. So it does require a little bit of planning to try to get the opponent not be able to attack. So this does fit a little bit more into the black on that ability, but his when Digivolved ability fits a little bit more into the purple side of things. So I think this card's just a really interesting card overall, and he definitely will have a lot of play and a lot of usability. So that's all of the spoilers that we got for today, and all of these Digimon are looking relatively strong and relatively decent. I don't notice any huge egregious signs of power creep yet, and these are all on some of the most powerful Digimon that are going to be in the set. So obviously we still have a lot more left to see in the set, and I'm definitely really excited to see what they have in the set, because right now this set is just looking like it is going to be a really interesting and really exciting set. Not just because we're supposedly getting more Omnimon and a whole bunch of other decent cards, but just because design-wise what the set is doing is starting to play with a whole bunch of different new aspects of the game that really will diversify deck building and deck variety. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.